Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. Car ton bras c'est porter l'épée, et c'est porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée de plus brillant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you very much, Joel. Appreciate this. Usually the end of the song tonight, but usually.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is my pleasure, though.
Madam Clerk, are there any addendum and delegation items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's one delegation item this evening, that being from Showboat Festival Theatre, and that's going to be heard under the consideration of item 1.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of interest tonight? There being none, it shall be so noted. I'd like a motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Councillor Doucette, second by Councillor Dance. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Call for a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of Committee 12-17 held on May 8, 2017. Madam Demery, here, moved by, seconded by. Mother. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, Mike, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't want to start all over again, do we? No, okay. Moving on to determination of items requiring separate discussion. As I look around, Mr. Maine.
Item 1 and item 2, please.
Anyone else on my right? On my left? Councilor Danch.
Item 4.
Anyone else on my right or my left? None? Thank you. Call for a motion to accept those items not requiring separate discussion. Moved by Councilor Demery, seconded by Councilor Butters. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. At this time, we have a presentation of the Port Colborne Hornets Under 15 Midget Girls Division 4 Ontario Basketball Provincial Champions. Mr. Walker, you're with us. Can you come forward as we recognize these young ladies?
Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about this championship for the young ladies that won.
Well, good evening, members of council, staff, and guests. It is my privilege to introduce to you tonight the members of the Under 15 Port Colborne Hornets Midget Girls Basketball Team. We are here to celebrate and congratulate these young women for their gold medal victory at the Ontario Cup Provincial Championship. Port Colborne Youth Basketball was established in 1997. As we celebrate 20 years of providing opportunities for our young people to learn to play basketball in our city, we are also celebrating a first for our club. The fact that these young ladies have won back-to-back gold medal championships. This is an incredible accomplishment. Don Mayer, an NCAA men's basketball coach, said, "Successful programs consist of people working hard, working together, while never worrying about who gets the credit." I believe this to be a true statement about this group before you tonight. In 3 out of the 4 games we played that weekend, we were behind in the last 2 minutes of the game. Teamwork is the secret that makes common people achieve uncommon results. I am proud of the resilience, patience, teamwork, and faith these young women have shown. Every time the girls put on their uniforms with the name Port Colborne emblazoned upon it, they are the ambassadors of our community, and they represent many of the good qualities and attributes of the people of Port Colborne. We are fortunate to have the support of the Port Colborne Youth Basketball Organization. PCYB has been working to provide basketball opportunities for youth for over 20 years. This year, PCYB was fortunate to have 200 players, 150 in house league, in 4 divisions, and 50 travel players. We are blessed to have the support of 20 local supporters and sponsors, and we have been pleased to work with the program directors at the Y and use the Vail Center for our house league and travel programs. When we host teams from out of town, we receive many compliments about the facilities we are fortunate to use in our city. Thank you for this opportunity tonight and for Council's recognition of our gold medal achievements.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Very, very proud of these young women who played so valiantly during the year and then leading into the championship round as well. And we've been joined by...
This is Scott Schooltrain, our assistant coach.
How are you?
Good.
And I guess it was almost like a storybook ending. They were down near the end, and it must have been exciting for some of the parents who were there. And they heart-throbbing or something like that. But they won the game in not overtime, but it was
getting close to overtime, but we pulled out with about under a minute to go.
yeah. But it was a thriller for everyone involved, team players, their parents, and the coaches. We have some certificates here to give to you to recognize their achievements. And I'd like to call, hope these are, no, sure they are, Jessica Acaster. Jessica, could you come forward? Congratulations.
Do I stand over there?
Yeah, just
Yes.
there.
Yeah. Haley Barrett, who cannot be with us tonight, and Abby D'Onofrio, who is not with us at this time. Chloe Grable.
Congratulations, Chloe.
Faith Ingebrigtsen.
Faith, congratulations.
Carrie Lynn Jones.
Very nice. Carrie Lynn, congratulations. Thank you.
Brona Main.
Brona, and I assume you are the granddaughter of Councillor Main, is that correct?
Lydia Schills. Robin Schooltrain.
Congratulations, Robin. Just turn around here. We have a picture being taken.
Hannah Walker.
Congratulations, Hannah.
And Ariel Wendling. And of course, our assistant coach, Scott Schooltrain.
Scott, we have one for you too.
And of course, our head coach, Carson Walker.
Arthur, congratulations again for the second round. Thank you. Good for you. Can you,
And I'll make sure those girls got those. Absolutely.
do that?
And that's the team one. Yeah.
If any parent wants to take a picture, please come up and do so. Maybe we'll just move together a little bit.
Well, I can take your slide, Mr. Michelle. We gotta figure out a better way. Carry slide this There we are.
Smile, everybody.
Before they all leave, I just say they thank them for making Port Colborne proud. And I must say, when I walked in here tonight, when there were so many people in the audience, I said, what did I forget? What's wrong? And fortunately, we're okay. Thank you, Bartlett. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. We have delegations now, and I'd like to hear the delegation from Showboat. Derek, can you come forward first? Derek, we'll call for determination of items requiring separate discussion. The first one is a delegation from Showboat. And before your presentation, don't run away, I'd call for a motion to accept this recommendation. Mr. Main, moved by Mr. Main, seconded by Mrs. Demaray. All those or any discussion?
Well, we have to have discussion first.
Okay. Go ahead, Derek. It's time for it's time now for your presentation.
Thank you very much for having us this evening. To the council, staff, and those in attendance. So about 4 years ago, I stood here before you with nothing except an idea, and we had a plan, and here we are now with no patrons, and now we've built ourselves up to what we project to be about 7,500 to 8,000 this season at Showboat Festival Theatre. We've extended from 4 weeks to 9 weeks this year. We were extended to 9 weeks at the Roselawn Centre. With plans by 2020 to extend to 13 weeks to get us up to around 12,000 to 15,000 patrons for Showboat Festival Theatre. We've submitted a delegation here for requesting that council review Showboat's rental rates to reflect the high volume tenancy that we have with the facility. We've made partnership moves on ourselves by investing in technical and building the Roselawn Centre itself. And we feel that this might be a nice opportunity for council in the town of, or city of Port Colborne to show partnership in return by just taking a look at those rates for us on the daily rental rates. And it's as submitted. I think we've explained ourselves to a great degree in the submission. And I'm welcome to answer any questions about Showboat at this time.
Members of council, any questions, Derek? Yes, John.
To Mr. Mayor, Derek. Thank you, Derek, for coming. I have some issues just due to the simple fact that these negotiations have been going on for a while, I assume, and as council, I just get to see them on a Thursday. It's pretty hard to digest between Thursday and the Tuesday, where it would have been Monday, had it not been for the holiday. It seems we have, I don't know whether you can answer these or Peter's, but there's a whole pile of options here of what council should be looking at. And to me, if there's that many options, the lease negotiations, the way I look at it, don't seem to be a success. Like, the only option I should have is what would be agreeable to both the city and Showboat, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't think there has been much difficulty with it, other than my understanding of it, and I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. Helen would speak to these things because she's been the one negotiating it, but she's about to have a grandchild down in Georgia, so she left this afternoon. So here I am standing before you, but from my understanding of it, it really is the crux of it, I think that, and Peter, you know, please jump in and save me at any point, I'd appreciate it, is that when you have the daily rate, rental rate for the 2-show day rather than the 1-show day, I don't think it's within Peter's power to change that number, which is why we're asking for that and why we're here today. And there was an agreement that we agreed to the lease for 1 year to allow ourselves a lot of breathing room so that we can get all the ducks in the row, so that it's not so hurried. Is that a fair assessment of?
Mr. Sass?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Correct. Basically, the negotiations we did, myself and Helen and Derek, and we didn't have any issues going forward on this. What basically it came down to is there are rental rates that are in our fee schedule, and we have rates for a single show and we have rates for a double show. And what Showboat is asking for basically is one of their options is for the double show to be just charged out at the single show rate rather than the double show rate, and that would have to be an approval of council. And it is in the rate schedule, it's just a matter of single versus the double. So if they have 2 shows in a day, it's $500 and some for the day for the 2 shows, and if it's a single show, it's the $353 for the show. So it's just a matter of is what Showboat is looking for, is instead of having to pay the double rate, is just pay the single rate for the day, even though they have the 2 shows going on that day. The only other item was we did negotiate on a rent, which was $1,000 a month, and Showboat has just offered, or their counter was $800 a month. But I think that, again, we brought that to council for council decision, you know, whether it's going to be $800, $900, or $1,000 a month. We based the $1,000 a month on what we're renting to other tenants in the facility, and also based on the fact that about $12,000 was the revenue that the city received through the ticket sales at Showboat. So the whole idea was that the city wouldn't lose a lot of revenue with the Showboat coming in and being a tenant within the Roseland Center, and so the $1,000 a month seemed to fit. And I think what Derek was saying is that with a 1-year agreement, they would sort of see what the numbers look like in the 1 year, and then we would look at it again going forward, and hopefully get into a longer term agreement after this first year with them being a tenant in the Roseland Center. So that's sort of why it's been brought to council this way. And I think there's 2 decisions, I guess, that council would make. One is the agreement as it stands, or whether or not council wants to reduce the rental, the monthly rental rate, or wants to change the double show to a single rate fee of the $353 versus the $500 and some dollars.
That's right. Yeah, and you know, I'm not much of a negotiator. I spend money. That's what I do. That's why Helen doesn't like me a lot sometimes, because I spend it to do art. But the goal is for the rental rate of the $1,000 for the 12 months was to offset exactly that, so that Roseland wasn't out any money. That was the game plan, and still is, and that's why we're open to just keeping that $1,000 a month in perpetuity, because we don't want anybody out in that regard. So without, you know, well, with showing all the cards, we are prepared to let that part of the negotiation slide so that we maintain that $1,000 a month. But it's the single day rate, that single show rate, that is most important to us, because that opens the door for us to bring in children's programming, and that's the big one for us during March break. It's just too cost prohibitive if it's a 2-show rate, because you can't charge a lot of money for a kid's show. It has to be an affordable for the family. What we do is usually 4 for $32, four people for $32, and with 220 seats, it's hard to make the money to be able to pay the artist travel time, their fees, et cetera, agent fees and riders and per diems and things like that. So for us, that's the big one, is the single show rate.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple more. Through you to Derek. Now, you would be able to live with the $353 for the double show and $1,000 a month.
Yes.
That would be favorable to you.
Yes.
Okay. I've been a landlord for a long time in this town, and I found that sometimes a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, and you've heard that probably a million times. You people seem to have, you did a great job on doing the offices and your tech work, and with the promise of some children's programs. I just see this as a win-win situation for everybody concerned, and I would support the $353 per double show and $1,000 a month, if that would be amenable to everyone else that sits here on council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter, could you tell me how many double shows there would be in a year's time? And children's programs you mentioned in March break, is that only in March break, or are there other opportunities for children's programming throughout the year?
Throughout the summer, for sure.
Summer
Absolutely.
as well?
Right, because we won't be occupying the building every week in the summer. Our goal is to occupy it 13 weeks eventually, which leaves a few weekends open. And that is an area of opportunity for us to bring in children's programming, like the duffel bag players or big tent productions and things like this. March break would be our first foray. We're very cautious with programming. We're very pragmatic, slow, some would say. But it's just for us to make sure that we have the market in the region, build the audience. So we would use March break as this stepping off point. And we have 16 double show days. And that would remain until we extend to 13 weeks, and then it would go up to 24 double show days.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Main on 2 points. One, I can't ever remember a recommendation coming with other options of 6 options. You know, Peter, you explained it really succinctly in the time you had there. I would like to have seen that explanation someplace in here, and I'm trying to figure out why we had 6, but so on that point I agree. And on the other point is, Derek, I'd like to congratulate you and your group. I think we have a good thing going here between the city and Showboat, and you know, I think you guys have proven yourself, and I think we're better off to have you there working the way you are. And I totally get your being cautious when you go ahead and, you know, look at children's programming or any other one. And I certainly would agree we should cut you a break and do the 1 show cost for a 2-show day. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Look, if you succeed and we get a whole bunch of these 2-show days, woohoo, that's great. And the next lease will be looking for, you know, something else, and you might be willing to pay a little more, but, you know, going in, I have no problem, you know, agreeing with Councillor Main's thought that we should go down to the one show price.
Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have no problems with supporting what Councillor Bodnar and Councillor Main are discussing, as long as it leads to a longer lease. Like right now, what we're talking about is 1 year again. Okay, so we keep doing this 1 year thing, and it sure drives you guys crazy. And it probably drives our staff crazy as well, because you keep renegotiating all the time, and it never stops. I'd like to see some kind of, if we do this and it all works out and everything seems to be good, I'd like to see a 3 to 5 year lease agreement next time you show up here in front of us next year, because that's what's going to have to happen. And if not, then there has to be something readjusted, and I'd still like to see a 3 to 5 year lease. Okay.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years would be on the low side. We've been discussing.
Oh, you're discussing more. That's even better.
Yeah, we've been, the number 10 has been thrown around, so, but, yeah, we're happy to discuss without renegotiating the one single show day rate for 50 years, if you don't mind. But we understand. 10's a number that's been tossed around, if I believe that's true, Peter, yeah? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so would we.
Any other questions of Derry? There being less, Mr. Main.
Peter, through Mr. Mayor, Peter, which one of these options would say everything we wanted to say? Because I'm just having difficulty with numbers here today. Would number 6 be the option that everybody, including the showboat people, would be amenable to, or is it?
I believe it'd be number 7.
Oh, it's number 7.
Mr. Sinas, am I correct in that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
No, it says nothing about the price.
Basically, the only change is the rental. The agreement would be as presented, except that the double show rate would be changed to a single show rate.
Okay.
Number 7 was the same thing with a single with
No.
Just word your own, John. Go for it.
Mr. Bodnar, but before you do, are we looking for an amendment to refer to a single show rate?
7.
Yes.
Number, Mr. Bodnar, you.
That was kind of my question.
Floor.
Do we have to defeat this and come back with a new one, or can we simply make an amendment to that
I'd probably recommend making an amendment.
amendment?
Yes.
Councillor Main had it, I think, so.
Councillor Main, do you wish to go forward on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add the amendment that we go to the single fee for the double shows as well, and add that into recommendation number 7.
Are we clear?
Yep.
Councillor Rod, or Councillor Rudders?
Well, there's one line in number 7 that you'd have to remove, because it says the theater rental rate at the existing council-approved rates. So we'd have to unplug that and then plug in what you want. Okay.
Okay. Madam Clerk,
It says 1,000.
are you going to express what you had suggested?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've recorded that the recommendation should be amended in order to state that the lease agreement be amended in order for the theater rental fee to be established at the single show rate, and I'll make the appropriate wording changes also that Councillor Butters recommended.
Everyone's content? We'll call the question now. Oh, we don't have a second there. Mr. Bodnar is. All those in favor of the motion as amended? Voting on the amendment first would be appropriate. Mr. Bonner. I'm sorry, Mr. Bonner, did you have a question?
No, I'm just getting ready to vote.
Okay, we have the amendment we would need first. Mover by Mr. Bodner, seconder by Mr. Doucette. All those in favor? Carried. Now we'll move on to the main motion as amended. We clear? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ritzel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
When is the opening night?
June 16th, don't you know?
June 16th. That's a eon away.
Big
June.
party coming, yeah. Yes, June 16th. We hope you'll all be there. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Mr. Maine, item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yeah, we gotta go back.
Actually, before we move on to number 2, I perhaps like to give a brief report as well, and then we'll call upon Mr. Baird to give a regional report. I just have a few items for my report this week. The State of the Community's address was the breakfast meeting with the Chamber of Commerce where Mayor Jeffs and I spoke on the state of our communities at their breakfast, and I think it was very well attended, and I think the morning went well. The South Niagara Rowing Club High School Regatta was last weekend, and I attended on your behalf on this high school regatta and presented the medals to the winners. The Rural Medicine Week, I welcome 4 medical students to our community for our city's annual Rural Medicine Week, orientating the candidates to what it's like to practice medicine in a smaller community. I would like to extend our appreciation to our community physicians, Bridges Community Health Center, members of our Medical Education, Recruitment and Health Services Committee, Mrs. Jill Croteau and Mrs. Joanne Faricelli, who advise us from time to time, as well as Councillor Kenny, who's with the group this evening, for her assistance in organizing and participating over the course of the week. Canal Days Committee, I attended a meeting this last week, and they continue to meet on a monthly basis, and I wish to confirm that the event is well organized and that the proposed initiatives are well under control. The Office of Medical Cannabis. Last week, myself, Councillor Bodner, and Dan Aquilina spoke with the Ministry of Health Office of Medical Cannabis about concerns raised in the community regarding medical marijuana operations in the city that are licensed under the old regulations. We have a 2 system now. They advised us that the Ministry of Health does not have any jurisdiction over these operations. Basically, the operators are morally bound to grow quantities as indicated in their licenses, and if the police have reason to believe they are not, then the police can enter upon the operation and perform an inspection. It then becomes a criminal code offense if infractions are noted. The Ministry of Health can work with police by providing them the information on the number of plants allowed, but that is as far as their involvement goes. They also indicated that the new commercial regulations have much stricter guidelines, including inspections, requirements for air quality, and to their knowledge, there have been no complaints about these operations. I've sent out additional information to all members of council regarding medical marijuana, which is the material is not an easy read, I'll admit that. Council may wish to sit down with the city solicitor for additional information and advice. And I'd be interested in hearing whether either Mr. Aquilina or Mr. Bodner have any other comments regarding this telephone meeting we had, or whether you might be interested in hearing from our city solicitor on this issue. It's certainly a real concern, and I find the government's position a little difficult to accept. Mr. Aquilina or Mr. Bodner, do either one of you have anything further on that point? Mr. Bodner?
Sure. I think it was a very good conversation. I mean, we actually had someone talking to us, which was, our goal from the start. And I think we actually asked them a number of questions that they themselves wanted to get back to us with an answer, which, you know, was fair. And I think, again, and the mayor had said it, we don't want to lead people to believe that the new regime, the new ones that are coming on board now, are not under any regulation, because they are under tremendous regulations. And it's the old regime that really is the one that is kind of like the Wild West. They have very little, we have little control, and it's frustrating in a way. But saying that, it was really they didn't rush us off the phone. They took all the time that we wanted. I think we asked them on, you know, all the questions we had. And I think it was a very good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ackley, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just echo the same comments that Councillor Bodner had made. There was a series of questions that we all asked, and they were frank and tried to give us answers. The answers that they couldn't provide, they would follow up with us, and I believe we have since seen that. So appreciate the time that they gave to us.
Thank you. It is a serious issue, and I think this is a little bit of a departure from a normal agenda, but I think it's important that you fellows express your opinions as well. Mr. Barrick. Oh, Councilor Wadner has a question. Councilor Brundage has a question.
I have a question regarding this.
Sure.
So as a follow-up to this phone call, I really appreciate the fact that that happened. I think that we would be well advised to set up a meeting with our city solicitor to see where we can move forward going the next bit on this issue. So I would assume that that would be an in-camera item.
Yes.
I'm assuming that would fall under legal, and I would ask that we would have that opportunity to meet with the solicitor and see what our options may or may not be.
If that is the wishes of council, we
That's
certainly
what I'm
can
asking.
go. I would recommend it. Do we need a motion, Madam Clerk? I
would
have a
move
seconder
that.
for that.
Thank you.
Councilor Desmarais. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Barrett, could you provide a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity again today. I wanted to highlight a couple of things from the region. One of them was that the region was recognized by the province, specifically the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, to receive an A+ rating for Niagara's 6 water treatment facilities. This demonstrates the region's commitment to health-based drinking water, and 100% rating is the 3rd year in a row that we've had such a rating, which really is a success that we should be proud of and to keep it going. On the same vein as the water theme, every year, at least recently, the region's put aside some money for combined sewer overflow programs. And what that is basically, currently there are some sewers that lead to wastewater treatment plants. And in effect, there's rainwater going through those sewers. And so residents and ratepayers are in essence paying to treat rainwater. So the combined sewer overflow program helps to separate the two. So the long-term operating costs, there's some savings realized. And so for 2017, the region put aside $4 million for that program. And continuing along the theme of getting Port Colborne's fair share of the region, I'm proud to say that Port Colborne's application received almost $1 million, almost 25% of funding, $987,000 for your Nickel area storm sewer construction. And it's the single largest project recipient. There were 45 applications from 10 municipalities. over $6.3 million in asks, and Port Colborne again receiving about $1 million worth. So congratulations to the city and your staff to get that project up and running. And I know that particular area has been problematic for quite a while. So hopefully this injection can assist from the region. The region also set up at its last council meeting a GO implementation office. That's the GO train, as we've been advocating for, to come to Grimsby, then St. Catharines, then Niagara Falls. Grimsby by 2021 and Niagara Falls by 2023. In essence, what that is now dedicated personnel, specific, every day, driving this project, the logistics, the coordination, et cetera, to keep Niagara on the map when it comes to getting firm dates from the province and firm investments, specifically with the announcement that Niagara is the winning bid for the Canada Summer Games. It just adds a little extra pressure that Canada will be Niagara, and it'd be great to have this infrastructure in place, at least into Grimsby by that time. And a final piece, which is with respect to the Police Services Board, I did want to highlight that I made a motion that was approved unanimously that the Police Services Board, this is with respect to its the board's makeup, the membership. The Police Board requests greater equity and diversity in the public appointment process to ensure its member composition better reflects the diversity of the communities it serves in the region, and the Premier and local MPPs, the region, et cetera, be notified. And why I made that motion, why I think it's important is, with all due respect to the current members, who all add a lot of value and experience and knowledge, they're all men. We're all men. And quite frankly, Caucasian men, 50 plus. I think I'm under 50, but I'm the only one. And so it's really important to get that level of diversity, gender-based, and as well as the various representation from the communities we serve. So I want to keep it top of mind. It's important because the province is going to be going through its member selection process there, and then certainly the region does its own appointment, 3 regional councillors, 1 public appointment. The province has 3, but I think it's important. Let's keep highlighting that. It's just not representative in its current format, and that's recognized. And I guess one final piece, just a friendly reminder to residents that the spring branch collection continues to May 26th. And to take, for those who haven't taken advantage of it, now's the time. And that's my report. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions of council? On the branch pickup, they have to be out on a certain day, your regular garbage day?
Correct, and they have to be bundled in specific sections. Yeah, that information can be found on the region's website if somebody's unsure. The specifications are there.
Thank you. If there are no questions, we appreciate the report, Mr. Barry. Thank you. Are there any councilors' items this evening? Yes, Mr. Danish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Through you to Peter, I've got 2 pieces of paper here, 2 different residents in the community, and they were so kind to bring me their water bills. Neither one of them have any usage whatsoever. The one property is a vacant property. There's not even a house on it. The other property was involved with a fire. And but he got a bill for $230. The other one got a bill for $195. And of course, the question being is, how come I got to pay for water if I didn't use any? So I told him I'd ask the question to the person that needs to give me the proper answer, so that when they come into my store again, I can say, well, Peter told me. So if you could answer that question, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Danch. Yes, all customers do pay the fixed capital surcharge that's on the water bills, whether it's water and the sewer charge. So that fixed charge goes on every bill on a quarterly basis. The only variable is the usage, that people have control over what actually they use, and there's a specific rate that's charged on the actual usage. So that's where they have the variation as to how high or low their bill is. But the fixed charges, they are billed to every customer in the city. And that's if you remember when we were going through the budget process, that is the fixed component that basically covers a lot of the fixed costs, the regional fixed costs, and the city's fixed costs.
Thanks for that, and I'm sure everybody enjoyed that explanation. They're not going to be happy, but you know what? I got a water bill too, and I get to sit here every couple weeks and listen to everything that goes on, so thank you for that info.
Thank you, Mr. Dash. Mr. Bonner, then Mr. Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ron, I guess. We had a public meeting on the ongoing saga of the Pleasant Beach garbage situation. It was very well attended. We had a lot of comments back and forth. And one of the solutions we thought we had was kind of rejected, and another option was brought forward where we would put the collection point on city property at the end of the road. I just wonder what the next process is, because we're getting well into the tourist season for the people that come down there. Can you just tell us how we're going to move forward with this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bodner. Councillor Bodner has summarized where we are with the process right now. We had our public meeting on May the 6th, and as he said, it was very well attended by the public and by regional staff who take care of waste management. The public meeting was as a result of several meetings we'd had with our ad hoc committee that was struck late last year to try to come up with solutions for the ongoing waste management issues at Pleasant Beach. We have come up through the committee, and I thought the committee was very good at discussing solutions, and having the ward councillors and the public members that live out there on the committee was very beneficial. We did come up with some solutions. Some were not well accepted, to say the least. We went to the public meeting with several options. Unfortunately, the preferred option of having the waste enclosure, a single waste enclosure that would be controlled and locked only for the use of the residents, that was rejected for a number of reasons. One being that it was close to a restaurant that's in the area as well. So unfortunately, we had to tell the people as we wrapped up the meeting, the people that were attending, that we're pretty much back to square one in terms of a common communal depository on Pleasant Beach Road, and the region had agreed to put the totes again out in the same location on the east side of Pleasant Beach Road towards the south end. The region will be, they sent a letter last week to all the residents giving an explanation of where we were with the situation, and they will be distributing individual waste containers for the household, similar to what we see in the city itself, where you have curbside collection. They'll be getting blue boxes, compost containers, and gray boxes as well, that they'll be able to utilize. Even with the communal location, they can still utilize those within their houses. So following the May 6th meeting, what we tried to do as staff is to organize a meeting last week in terms of getting the ward councillors and senior staff into a meeting to discuss a go-forward plan, options for the ongoing issues. Unfortunately, when we scheduled a meeting for the 15th, we didn't have a quorum and we weren't able to continue on with the meeting. So I think at this point in time, we will try to reschedule that meeting and try to get a go-forward program, or a plan, I should say, on the project, and try to determine if we have an option anywhere that will be acceptable to the residents. And it's, to say the least, it's been difficult to get 60 or 70 households to agree on a permanent solution. So we're back to the 2016 communal deposit until such time as we implement another solution.
Mr. Bonner.
Thanks for that, Ron. And I think it's important to note that the solutions that the committee brought forward were rejected, but for very good reasons. It wasn't, it wasn't simply, frivolous things. That's the more we talked about it, it seemed that there was some problems with where those locations were. But I don't think, and Councillor Butters has been a big part of this too, that anybody is happy going back to the status quo. That is, that has proven not to work. So I look forward to those meetings. I think we can work something out. It'll never be perfect for everybody. It'll be much improved, I think, over, dumping it on the road, basically. But I think if we could get that meeting sooner rather than later, because it'll take a while to implement it. And the residents were wondering where we're going with this, so I'm happy to hear that that's part of the solution. Thanks.
Any other questions on this issue? Mr. Demery? No. You're okay? All right. Okay. Mike, is this weekend your fire safety week at the hall? Do you want to advise council of the details?
Okay.
It's on Saturday?
Yes.
Starts at?
Safety Awareness Day is Saturday, and we, as in the past, we have all the different agencies involved, as well as prizes for the kids. There's a bike rodeo. I believe it's from 10 to 1. We did scale back the time this year a little bit. And hot dogs and treats for the kids. All flyers have gone to every school. We've hand-delivered them to every school, so every school-age student has received a flyer, as well as we've put posters throughout the city.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem.
But, I think it's important that we hear about that, and we encourage members of the public to attend on Saturday for this event. Madam Demery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was actually going to be my announcement, was the Road Safety Awareness Day, and that's okay. But just to add to that, for the first time, we're going to have both high schools involved. So we're taking the next level upcoming. We aim it at elementary school children, but the high schools are coming involved, and this is particularly important this year. Although we wrap this up in some really entertaining packaging, it's still there's a great safety message that goes out on this day for all levels of play for our children. Especially now when you watch social media and you're seeing so many needless injuries happening for kids running out and getting hurt doing everyday things. So if you're bringing your kids out on Saturday, you're going to have a great time, but they are going to learn some valuable things that could in fact save their lives. So it's going to be a good day and an absolutely free event, and we hope that everybody takes advantage and comes out.
Thank you, Mr. Demery. I noticed that Mr. DeWar is in the council chambers this evening. I'd perhaps call upon our CAO to give an update on the status of the question at issue, the Boltons.
Sure. Through your worship to council, we did have a staff direction from a previous meeting of council that staff would discuss the request or the subject of the delegation with Mr. DeWar and report back to council. I did discuss it first internally with senior management and with the museum director, and then we've made a little bit of progress internally, but obviously we need to speak to Mr. DeWar himself. I asked my administrative assistant to set up a meeting with him, and in just speaking with Mr. DeWar before council today, found out that that hasn't happened yet. So we'll get that meeting set up right away. And that's going to be myself, Stephanie Baswick from the museum, and Mr. DeWar sitting down and figuring out next steps for his proposal and reporting back to council with what the result of those discussions are. So I expect to have that happen sometime in June.
Any questions of Mr. DeWar? They're being done. Are there any issues of staff have that they would like to report back on? Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council will recall the discussion we had regarding the Pleasant Beach signage that gives other locations that we have, other beaches, Cedar Bay, Centennial Beach, sorry, and Nickel Beach. So we had a good discussion this afternoon with the ward councilors just prior to this council meeting, and we have a good solution as to the relocation of the sign and another sign giving direction to Nickel and Centennial Beach. So the only thing I would ask council to do is to actually have direction that staff go ahead and do the relocation based on the locations and other issues that we discussed this afternoon.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Aquilino? Who would like to make that motion? Mr. Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that that staff be directed to move ahead with changing the position of the sign that's now on Pleasant Beach Road, and in addition put some small signage at the corner of Shirkson Road and Pleasant Beach Road that will direct people to Nickel Beach and Centennial Beach with the actual minutes it'll take them to drive there. So if they're not familiar with the area, you know, it's not an hour's drive, it's, you know, 5 minutes and 8 minutes, something like that. I think that'll go a long way in at least getting people in that direction. And the sign that is now on Pleasant Beach Road will be relocated down at the end of Pleasant Beach Road where right on the kind of the beach entrance where people will be able to see it from their cars once they get down there, explaining where these places are and that there's washrooms at both of them. There's a charge for Nickel and no charge for Centennial. So I think the original plan was for staff to bring back a report to council. We'd have to wait then, you know, and it'd be the end of June before any of this happens. So with council's indulgence, if we can just do it by motion tonight, it would speed up the process and get those signs in the right location.
So you, in fact, are making that motion, and we need a seconder. Councillor Butters. Any further discussion required? Thank you for that in-depth discussion, Mr. Bodnar. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item number 2, return to the agenda. Mr. Main.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 2, Community and Corporate Services, Community Service Division, report number 2017-66, subject lease agreement between the City of Port Colborne and Cooper Marine Limited for an office in the Harbor Master Building.
Is there a recommendation? There's a second for that recommendation. Councilor Demeray. Discussion. Mr. Main.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm totally supportive of this, with some exceptions. Over the years, the end where the pilots got to be pretty shabby looking, and I would just like to see. I mean, because it's a pretty good rate. I mean, these. I'd just like to see them keep it up a little bit better than what it has been in previous years. Their end. I mean, the city end was always pretty good, I thought. And now that we have the public washrooms in there, it would. To me, I'd like to see them clean their end up a little bit too, rather than have the taxpayer do it. Is that too much to ask for?
Mr. Sinets.
To you, Mr. Mayor, are you referring to like the building itself, or
no, not the building itself, because of the building that we maintain the building.
Correct.
I'm just talking about the outside appearance, garbage cans and stuff like that. If they're in their area and by their door, I really think that it would be, to me, clean it up, and because it does have a reflection on the city, and it also has a reflection on Cooper Marine, I think. So it's just a thought.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll have that discussion with them.
Thank you.
Any further comments or discussion? Is it meant that the pilots would actually be able to stay in that facility waiting for a boat?
To you, Mr. Mayor, yes, correct. They use that as their stay while they're waiting for the boats to come through, and they also get then the captains get shipped out to the boats coming through.
Okay. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Next item is item number 4. Mr. Danch.
Thank you, Your Honor. Community and Corporate Services, Community Services Division Report number 2017-86, subject request for quote, Sugarloaf Marina new marine mobile hoist.
Seconder for that recommendation, Mr. Doucette. Discussion. Mr. Danch.
I just wonder if we could get Mark up on TV again, and then he could be on 2 channels in the same day. I know this is a budgeted item, and you know, we were looking at the hoist and how reliable it wasn't, and I just wonder, Mark, it's a lot of money to spend on a hoist. I just wonder, like, this thing will pick up to 70 to 80,000 pounds. How many boats do we get in that size over the season, like spring or fall? Do we get something that big?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have 2 currently that are stored with us that require a crane to lift them up because our 25 to 30 ton lift cannot lift them up. So right now there's 2. Just yesterday, another boat had prop issues. They're around 30 tons. And they asked if they could be lifted out in an emergency situation to have someone check their props, and we could not lift them because we know we're probably around 26 tons right now. We've tried lifting someone, but once word gets out, we could pick up those 30 to 40 ton boats, so we could get a few more boats, but...
Cool. That's got to be a lot of boat, a lot more than my little Thundercraft weighs. How many operators do we have for that piece of equipment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, currently there are 4, actually there are 4 that are trained to use that machine.
Okay, well, that's really all I had to ask, and thanks so much, and best of luck with that big machine.
Any other questions? Mr. Main.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mark and I have talked about it before. When you get something in around 40 ton, will we have to reinforce the piers in order to hold the weight? Because those piers don't really look that substantial to support 40 tons. That was one question, whether the piers would be suitable. And the other question I had would be, do we charge by the ton to lift these guys? Because I know the 2 guys that you're talking about, they pay, you know, $4,500 to have a crane come in and put them in the water. And if, you know, if we're going to spend, which we budgeted for, and I agree with that, the 300 and some odd thousand to accommodate 2 boats. I was just wondering whether that would be taken into consideration. You could answer the pier question first, please, if you don't mind.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, we did have a company give us a quote on an engineering assessment of those piers. We do have those numbers. We're not going to move forward with it currently. The lift that's currently there, it used to be advertised as a 30 to 35 ton. So that was back when it was new, everything was working fine. So we know that those piers are at least 30 to 35 tons. So we're not going to go out and start lifting up 40 tons just because we now have a 40 ton. I think we're more looking in the long run that this machine is going to be a 25 year machine. So we're looking in the long run where we may be able to extend the piers or reinforce them or do something with those piers. So the reason why we didn't go with the 50 to 60 ton that we initially wanted was because of the length of the piers, that we knew that we'd never be able to lift anything that was that long. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. We're looking more in the long run that this machine could eventually lift up some bigger boats if we were going to look into having our piers extended and reinforced.
Yeah, that does answer it, Mark. It's just that the idea of somebody sees 40 tons on there and my boat's 40 tons, they have to realize that, you know, you get it up there and the pier collapses and then everybody's in big trouble, right? Yeah. So yeah, that answers that question. As long as you people, well, if the boat's too heavy, we're not going to lift it for that reason, right?
Correct.
And the second question is lifting by the ton. I just find it, and I get it. I mean, these guys want to be at the marina. They want to be able to store their boats there. But there has to be some kind of a premium, I would think, for everybody else to pay for a lift for basically 2 boats. or maybe 3, like you say, you might have an extra one, or somebody comes in with a bent prop or a leaky hull, and I can understand that. So what do you think about that idea?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with the current machine, we would have no idea how much each boat was. We're relying on what they're telling us. Yes, we can do some searches online and find that out. But with this new one, it actually tells you how much that boat's gonna weigh. So once you get it in the air, it's gonna show you exactly how much it's not gonna allow you to lift anything over that 40 tons, which we're not anyways. So lifting by the ton, I guess it is an option. Right now it's based on the length of the boat. So we can look into those rates in the future.
Any other questions of Mr. Minor? There be none. Thank you very much, Mark. That would appear to conclude the discussion of the various items requiring separate discussion. I guess we need the motion to pass that. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Are there any notices of motions? There being none, I call for a motion for adjournment. Mr. Dash, seconded by Mr. Bodner. All those in favor? Carried. Now I'd like to move on to the regular meeting of council 14-17 held following the committee of the whole meeting. And I will call that to order. Are there any addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's one this evening, bylaw 6475-4217, that being a bylaw to authorize entering into a lease agreement with Showboat Festival Theatre, has been pulled as a result of an amendment to the associated agreement and will be presented at the next council meeting.
Do you need a motion to add that addendum item? No? At this time, I entertain a motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Councillor Doucette, seconded by Councillor Danch. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. I'd call for the adoption, or are there any disclosures of interest? There being none, it shall be so noted. Call for the adoption of minutes. Madam Clerk, do you want to read those out?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Special meeting of council held on April 25th, 2017, the special meeting of council held on May 1st, 2017, and the regular meeting of May 8th, 2017.
I'd call for a motion to adopt those minutes in bulk. Councillor Bodner, seconded by Councillor Desmarais. All those in favor? It's carried. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. There are none. Oh, you've got somebody down here in the right corner.
Just one thing, if I could, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure that we took note of these sunglasses that are now being sold at Sugarloaf Marina. Everybody got one, and on there's a tag that says to check out Doc Talk. If everybody just hops on the internet and checks out Doc Talk, it's a great thing.
Everybody, glasses, please.
We all have glasses. Put them on, everybody. There we go.
Some of us will look at it.
Yes. Some of us should take the tag away. There you go.
Come to Port Colborne Marina for the summer.
Yes. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Madam Desmarais. Perhaps we could call for approval of items not requiring separate discussion. Moved by Councillor Butters, seconded by Councillor Desmarais. All those in favor? Carried. Proclamations, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's one proclamation this evening, that being Seniors Month, the month of June.
We have a mover. Councillor Desmarais, seconder. Councillor Butters. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. I'd call upon Madam Clerk to read those out again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The minutes of the East Village Neighborhood Improvement Task Force meeting of March 27th and May 1st, minutes of the Transit Advisory Committee meeting of January 25th, and the minutes of the Port Colborne Economic Development Advisory Committee of October 17th.
Call for a motion to adopt those minutes. Moved by Councillor Butters, seconded by Councillor Main. Any questions? Being none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Consideration of bylaws. Madam Clerk, could you assist again?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be enacted and passed. Bylaw 6475-4217 being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement with Cooper Marine Limited. Bylaw 64764317 being a bylaw to temporarily close sections of various streets for the 7th annual art crawl. Bylaw 64774417 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 4310-14602 being a bylaw prescribing on and off street parking for persons with disabilities. Bylaw 64784517 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 5062111707 being a bylaw to designate certain private roadways as fire routes. Bylaw 64794617 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 34755697 being a bylaw establishing parking lots in the city of Port Colborne. Bylaw 64804717 being a bylaw to appoint a municipal law enforcement officer. Bylaw 64814817 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 5062111707 being a bylaw to designate certain private roadways as fire routes. And finally, bylaw 64824917 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting of May 23rd.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Could we have a mover for those bylaws? Councillor Butters, seconder, Councillor Demray. Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. At this point, I entertain the motion for adjournment. Councillor Dench, seconded by Councillor Demray. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, staff, for attending. Again, adjourned.